For 2 decades, Lexus has been grinding away at what many would think is a simple project. Create a compact sport luxury sedan to challenge BMW's 3 Series, a Mercedes-Benz C-Class, or Audi A4. And this is the 2021 version, which has been updated, and you're looking at the fanciest version of the IS you can buy in Canada, the 350 with all-wheel drive and the F Sport package. The IS comes with a tidy and modern exterior design. It is a delightful refinement of established and at times overwrought Lexus design themes we've seen in previous models. You also get technologies that enhance or refine the car's dynamics with a twist of a knob. And I think you'll find here impressive infotainment user-friendliness. The cabin is snug, true, but at least the rear seats fold flat for long items. Versatile. If you want to compete in the luxury segment, you need a sports sedan, a handy-sized sports sedan like the IS right here. What does this car represent? It represents Lexus's best effort at a sports sedan for a mass market audience that also, shall we say, needs an everyday driver as well. And keep in mind, this is a Lexus, which comes with the promise of reliability and longevity. The costly repairs that often dog German car owners and fill chat rooms with angst are unlikely to show up in an IS. So while the all-in price tag of my tester landed on 70 grand, you could still argue there is value for money here. As for me personally, I was prepared for an underwhelming experience. I have tested all the IS cars in history, and every one of them has left me feeling like I'd just driven a smaller, livelier Toyota Camry. The engines were solid and tame. The dynamics were predictable and unremarkable. Not a lot of twists and flex in this body structure. But the real secret to giving you driving dynamics is now in the software in the car business. And here in this IS, well, there's a lot of different things you can do. The technical doodad that's available here is the ability to dial up different suspension modes that sharpen up the steering, the suspension settings, the shift points, that sort of thing. So right now I'm driving along in normal mode. You can also dial up just right over here on the dial, as you're driving in fact, eco mode. Now, if you really want to sharpen things up, you can just dial over here. I'm not going to take my eyes off the road, but this allows me to dial it up into sport mode, which again sharpens things up a little bit more responsive, or you can dial it into Sport Plus. A few more words about design. This time around, well, it's taken generations, but I think Lexus has sorted out the sheet metal. The brand's design language has long been a confusion, but here in 2021, the IS is lower, wider, and interesting to the eye without straining the bounds of good taste. The fenders are muscular rather than muscle-bound. The proportions are balanced rather than nose-heavy, which is often the case with Japanese designs across many brands. Speaking of the nose, again, Lexus has spent forever trying to sort out its original cowcatcher grille. And finally, the designers have landed on an interpretation that is novel, attractive, well-proportioned, and anything but overwrought. If you take your time with the whole car, you'll spot sharp lines carved into the sides and shoulder lines that speak to an athletic look. The 19-inch wheels and low-profile rubber on my tester were excellent. The cabin? The cabin is tight. If you are a big guy, maybe a football linebacker, you're going to find that this cabin is a real squeeze. And there's more bad news. The look inside is all black, with a bit of white stitching to break up the gloom. The seats are covered in faux leather, something called New Lux. But let's be fair. The dual-zone automatic climate control system has these nicely integrated vents. The touch-sensitive controls are kind of fun, and something to show the neighbors. There is a smart key with push-button start, of course. The standard touchscreen is an undersized 8 inches, but my F Sport tester had the much better 10.3-inch screen and positioned close enough to the driver for eye comfort and safety. A touchpad allows you easily to manage the infotainment system too. The multimedia system is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatible. There are paddle shifters behind the wheel, and you manage the adaptive variable suspension with the dial here on the console. Lexus offers a basic rear drive IS for $43,000. At the top of the range is the IS 350 all-wheel drive F Sport, which all in is just under $61,000 to start, but with taxes and all the rest, you land at 70 G's. For that coin, you get all-wheel drive, a reasonably powered 3.5-liter V6, and quite a dull 6-speed automatic gearbox. We live in a world of 8 and 10 speeds, not 6s. That said, I am a fan of the dynamic handling package with this car, the 19-inch forged BBS wheels, adaptive variable suspension with Sport Plus mode, triple LED headlamps, and silver interior accents that break up the relentless black. And I should mention all the safety gear. There is so much of it, it's hard to imagine how you'd ever get into trouble with this car. I mean, there are cameras and radar elements designed to keep you out of collisions. So good they detect even bicycles and pedestrians in low light. The car alerts you to dangerous situations and helps with the braking and steering when appropriate. There is blind spot monitoring and traffic alerts to warn you of dangers when backing up. All proof that one day, probably not so far away, cars will drive themselves or take over from any driver who is making a mess of things. After 2 decades, Lexus has come much closer to challenging the Germans than I ever thought possible. As my old football coach used to say, keep running that play till you get it right. Even you'll figure it out, Cato. As has Lexus. What the hell is that? And this is pretty true for the ridgy, with a very ridgy, spent a decade